Who is Jean-Jacques Rousseau? He was considered the father of Romanticism and lived from 1712 to 1788. According to Rousseau, everything natural is good, but humans are corrupted by society. In his political work, The Social Contract, Rousseau asked, since society is bad, how do we justify its existence? In his educational work, The Emile, Rousseau asked, since society is bad, how do we educate children without corrupting them? The Emile is a book on how Rousseau would educate an imaginary boy named Emile. How would he educate Emile's imaginary wife, Sophy, is presented in Chapter 5. And Chapter 5 is quite sexist. In this video, we will focus on Chapter 2, which presents the free inquiry approach. While the best would be to leave the child in a completely natural state, Jean-Jacques recognizes that this would make matters worse for someone born into contemporary society. So the goal is to civilize the child while retaining as much of his natural goodness as possible. Jean-Jacques Rousseau recognizes that this is an impossible goal for a child. This is why he did not think the book would serve as a manual for educating young children. It was rather a piece of reflective philosophy about the limitations of modern societies and the harms that inevitably follow. Jean-Jacques Rousseau thought that the most education in his day was mere indoctrination, and that it taught young people to be vain and conceited, what he called amour-propre, and in his educational program he tried to avoid teaching content and focused on the progressive mastery of practical and useful skills. This is why it's called progress education. While it is not intended as a manual for how to raise children, some of the ideas in Emile have a long-lasting effect. These include the focus on education tailored to a child's age and development, and the development of progressive education among children. What might be called progressive education is modeled in Book 2. Emile is discouraged from reading books until he is old enough, around the age of 12, and encouraged to go play in nature and develop his interests. By developing his interests, he can learn the things that matter to him rather than having a set curriculum. An example of progressive education today is the Finnish system. Of the many types of education globally, the Finnish system might be most thought to follow Rousseau's progressive education approach. They have shorter school days than we have, they have more recess, and no standard curriculum. Teachers instead encourage their children to pursue their interests and provide feedback rather than grades for their improvement. Their children take one standardized test at the end of high school. So what is the result? The students score the highest on standardized tests in the world.